Anyway, so I'm gonna do a little bit of program, and then we're gonna do a live demo. And if anybody wants to try some, they're welcome to. So what are we waiting on? We're waiting on me. Hang on. So milk kefir or kefir is an interesting fermented drink. So just give me one quick second.
Contact Rob, we can help you with that.
Here we go. So it's an interesting thing. So let me start here. There we go. So I don't know. Can I have a show of hands of anybody who's even ever heard of kefir? Okay, that's pretty good. About a third of you. I'd never heard of it. I'd never seen the word written. I'd never heard anything. My wife sent me a recipe, this one, and right here you'll see, what the heck is this? 100 milliliters of this thing. And so I looked on the internet, and it's some amazing stuff. It's been around for thousands of years. It initially, every ancient culture has a historic record of this stuff. In Judaism, it was given by God to Abraham. Abraham. In Turkey, I don't know if you remember the old commercials for yogurt in the 70s where they had these old geezers in Turkey and they said, well, they lived to be 115 because they ate yogurt. Well, they didn't. They drank kefir. So you'll notice that I keep calling it a different name because it's hard to keep track of what the real pronunciation is. But this is what I'm talking about. It's a fermented milk product that's a combination of yeast and bacteria. It's like buttermilk. So if you've had buttermilk to drink before, it's like buttermilk. It tastes like buttermilk a little bit. But this thing it's a symbiotic conglomeration of yeast and bacteria that have formed around lactose in milk. And so what they figure happened a long time ago is they would use goat stomachs to store their milk. They'd milk the goat, they'd put it in these bags, and instead of going sour, it survived. And so what happened is and it can't be reproduced. You can't go into a lab and take a bunch of bacteria and a bunch of yeast, stick it together with lactose, and get this stuff. I'm going to pass this around. This is some that's frozen. You can pop the top off and just send it back there. It looks like
You don't need a hazmat suit.
Yeah, no, you don't need a hazmat suit. I was going to wear a lab coat, but I couldn't find it. So it's like it's like the consistency of cottage cheese, and it's kind of slippery and gooey. And what happens is they call those things kefir grains. There's nothing grain about it. It's just because it's a small round thing, they call it a grain, but there's no actual grain in it. But if you want to make this, you have to start with that, and it has to be passed. You can't just go get it. You have to have it from somebody who already has some. So I bought a thing that was about half that size on the internet, and it was $11. And it came, and I put it in milk, and it started working, and I bought that in June, and I've got a bunch here that I'll share with you at the end if you feel like trying some. You can also get it at Martin's. If you look at the organic aisle, it's on the very end that faces the little Chinese market there. It's in that little end refrigerated aisle, and they have flavored ones. I wouldn't get the flavored pre-made stuff because it's just loaded with sugar. But they have plain kefir. So it's pretty cool stuff. You know, blah 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 blah. I'll put this up on the website. You can download this. There's references at the end. The thing is, when you first start out, you need to use whole milk. But once you get a couple of days in, and it basically takes a day. So I'll show you how you do it because I've got some that needs to be done. You basically strain the kefir grains out. The milk ends up in a jar, and then you pour more milk into the kefir grains and stick it in a cabinet. It sits at about 70, 72 degrees. The only thing that'll kill that stuff is excessive heat and lack of sugar. So I took some with us to Hawaii when we were there, and we made some while we were there, and I took some with us to Aruba, and I found a jar at the, all you need is a jar and a strainer, and you're good to go. Yeah, so to me it tastes like buttermilk. So you got a bunch of different pronunciations. You got kefir, kefir, kefir. The real correct, ancient Turkish pronunciation is kafir. I end up finding myself saying this more, kefir. A lot of people say kefir, doesn't really matter. So this is, as you can see, this is what I'm passing around. It's these are like little strands, and some of them are long, twisted, and some of them are short and little, and it's incredible stuff. So let me get to why it's cool. So what it does is you can take fully lactose. You can't use ultra pasteurized milk. That's one thing. So a lot of the organic milk that you see out there is ultra pasteurized. Can't use that. They've said that it's best with raw milk, but we can't get. At least I haven't found raw milk around here. It's probably illegal in Virginia. Yeah. Do what? Oh yeah, Page County. So I'll stick with my giant, fat-free milk. It works fine. So if you look at this slide here, these are all the bacteria, and as far as yogurt goes, it's about 6, 8, 10 times more strains of bacteria in this than in yogurt. It's easier to make. There's really nothing to it. But these ones in red are found in yogurt. All the rest are found in this, and then they come in, depending on what you start with, there'll be a different mix of those. And then there's different yeasts. So this is interesting. I don't know why they call it right or left, right? So probably either way. But so yogurt is left-turning bacteria, and what that means is when you eat it, it goes into your system, and it interacts with whatever's in there, and it just goes right through. So you have to eat it every day. Just like probiotics, a lot of those, you have to take those every day because your stomach acids kill all of them for the most part. So kefir, it actually grows colonies inside you, and it'll stay in there. And so I don't know if you've ever known anybody with a thing called C. diff. I don't know what it stands for, but my sister had colon cancer. She had a chunk of her colon taken out, and it got infected. And so she had like 2 months of just intense antibiotic treatment. And what it left her with is all the bad bacteria, which is C. diff. And so her system couldn't combat that. And I told her about this, and she started making it, and it's helping her. So you get out of balance. And so normally all that stuff it's billions and billions of things in there, and they just kind of live happily down there, and they mind their own business. So these things actually can help rebuild your good bacteria and then stay in there so that you can get back into balance. So these are the utensils that you need in order to make kefir. You need an empty ball jar, a plastic bowl, either a plastic or a stainless steel mesh screen, and a little slotted spoon. And just the reason why is, some of you know that my wife had cancer 6 years ago. She had massive radiation and chemotherapy. It destroyed her insides, okay? So every day for 6 years has been really a nightmare for her. This is the only thing in all that time that made any impact on her daily life. And it's just like, why wouldn't anybody have ever said that? But it works. And so I didn't highlight the first slide, but down at the bottom of the first slide it said I'm not a doctor. So your mileage may vary, it's up to your own circumstances.
You stayed at a Holiday Express.
Right, you did, right. I did stay at a Holiday Express last night, Holiday Inn. So you do need to work with clean things. They've got studies that show that it actually can retard the growth of E. coli, for some period of time, not forever. But so it's got a lot of really good properties. So now I'm going to switch over to a live demo. And so just to let you know, you can make kefir like sourdough starter. So you just mix equal amounts of kefir milk and flour and let that sit for like 3 or 4 days. I've made cheese out of it. Now this is a yogurt, some kind of yogurt thing, I don't know. But you just pour it in. It's a very fine mesh. You pour it in and it drains the whey out. It's a clear liquid. Let me show you that actually. And then it sits and it drains and it ends up, with this device, it ends up being the consistency of sour cream. And you can use it in place of sour cream. So for people who are lactose intolerant, this stuff eats all the lactose out of the milk. So when you end up with kefir milk, it's pretty much lactose free. There's like 1% lactose in it. And so let me just show you. All right, well this is the one that I need to make, but you can see how it's separated here. So this, when you pour it in here, this just drains out. And then what I do is, it gets to be, like I said, sour cream-ish. Then I'll put it into a strainer with a coffee filter, and it ends up being more like Boursin cheese. And so I've taken fresh herbs from the garden, mixed it up in there, and it's really pretty delicious. It has kind of a tart flavor to it. So at the end, we can have samples if anybody wants. This is you can also try this. This is just the store-bought at Martin's, plain kefir. It's $2, $3, something like that, but you can try this too if you want. So let me just show you what you need to do. So I put this in the cabinet yesterday morning, and it's been sitting. This morning it was a little bit separated, but you just shake it. Still looks like milk. And then you open the top.
What went into that, Ron?
What's that?
That jar that you have in your hand, you said you put it in there
Yesterday.
yesterday.
Yeah.
What did you put in there yesterday?
I'll show you. So what you do is you strainer and this and some people use a bowl. You just pour it in here. And then the key is that you really need to not use any kind of metal. So you can use stainless steel if you're going to use metal. So I have a stainless steel strainer that I use that fits better, but I don't want to bring it. And so here we go. You stir this through. It's like I don't know I don't know if anybody can think of what this is like. It's almost like sifting flour. So if you've ever sifted flour with a strainer like this, you just kind of stir it around, and in the end, all the flour's gone. Well, in this case, in the end, you end up with a bowl of kefir grains. So it just takes a second, stir it around. I ended up getting this slotted spoon because it has bigger slots than the one that I had normally, and allows the milk and the smaller grains to just fall through. So that's basically it. So this is a clean jar. I mean, it doesn't look clean now. It was clean yesterday. I use them for about 3 days, and then I'll switch jars. I bought a case of quart jars, $11, something like that. And then you just, there they are. So it looks kind of gross, but it's not.
Is that what this stuff is right here?
That's exact. So what happens is that they multiply. So this is really too much for a quart. So what I'll do tomorrow is I'll probably separate some out and put them in there. And what I do is you mix in powdered milk. So you strain them, maybe a little more than I did here, and you put them in a little jar or a little container, mix them up with powdered milk, and then freeze them, and it'll last up to a year in the freezer. And what I did is I mailed those to Hawaii before I went out there. So I took a frozen one just like that, mailed it to him, and I asked Ron when he got them to just pop them into the fridge. Okay.
And you trusted Ron?
I did, yeah, and he did. So now,
Well, he's got Sandy on the side, so.
no, I was wrong. Sandy didn't have anything to do with that. So I'll just kind of walk this around. It's like a foamy, thick.
Aren't you glad we came to America, Lou?
So this is just strained already.
And do you just bring
So it's just like a foamy.
It certainly doesn't smell.
Ross?
Yes.
I was thinking, it looks gross, but then I just sit there and I
Oh, I'm sorry.
Well, you know, anybody that's on a long-term internet.
So,
That's a lot of flights.
so
We have
this will go into an empty jar.
So how does that compare to kombucha?
So it's similar. So there's 3 fermented types of foods. There's yogurt and kefir, there's kombucha, and then there's just fermented vegetables. So kombucha is a different type of fermentation, and it starts with this thing that looks like a mushroom, mushroom. Do you? Yeah. So it's a good thing. It's similar. So all I'm going to do is pour this. The stuff that I just strained just goes in there, and you can see it's kind of thick. And then what you can do is you can put this back in a cabinet at room temperature. You can put like sliced strawberries, you could put oranges, you could put whatever in there. And then it ferments another day, or maybe 8 to 10 hours. And then it infuses the flavor of whatever you put in there. And it's pretty good. Lynn really likes that. So I just like it plain. So now we've got this stuff, right, in the same jar that I used. Just giant fat-free milk.
That's basically your starter.
Yeah.
So you use fat-free milk?
I do now, yeah. You have to start with milk. Okay, and then that's it. Right, you just give it a stir, and then this will just go back into a cabinet and sit for a day. And that's it. So, yeah, it takes, with this much starter in there, it'll probably take less than a day. So maybe by this afternoon it'll actually be ready.
How do you know when it's ready?
So it'll start to separate out, and you'll see some like layers of clear in there.
Oh.
And as soon as that happens, it's ready. And it can go a couple of days, and it'll end up looking like this, and you just shake it, and it's fine.
Do you cook with it or have you made ice
Yes,
cream?
so I haven't made ice cream with it. I made some starter, some sourdough starter, and I made pancakes, which are really wonderful. You can use it in place of any recipe that has butter. And it actually does have a quality. So it's a very interesting thing. And I must say, I knew nothing about it, and the more I found out about it, the more I was really enthused. I thought that I would have problems with the U.S. Customs coming back in. They didn't care. You know, because they ask you about agriculture and stuff like that. You know, you got any agriculture products? It's like, well, I
Is this
do.
considered agriculture?
Well, it's milk, yeah, I think it is, but they didn't care about it. I don't quite understand.
You didn't smell something that's right.
I don't think they just know. I don't think they noticed it. It didn't.
Well, why are you smelling?
Just to make sure that it all has the same level. So some of them I let set out for a while. I'll leave it at that. If we use this, we
I have a feeling you're not gonna need more of that.
I don't know, man. All right, so and then there's this. So if anybody who wants a sample, come on up. I got little shot glasses.
I'm gonna try.
Who's in for
I tried
shots?
everything they could try in Taiwan.